Hello and welcome to the DevDC podcast. Today we have Ford Pryor on. Ford, you're kind of a legend in the area for this podcast setup that we have going here. Appreciate you joining mine though this evening. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Nice. So Ford has agreed to join us here, talking a little bit about his experience, which actually includes being the host of RVA Tech Talks. I don't want to steal your thunder though, Ford. Could we go ahead and have you, tell us a little bit about your story wherever you want it to begin?
Yeah, I mean, I think relative to your audience, my story will begin when I got my first tech job. And well, actually, it all began working at a law firm litigating the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. And I had a bunch of random roles at that company, including like Spanish fraud investigation. I think I was laughing with you about that, when we talked last over the phone. But I got exposed to a GIS tool, thought it was pretty cool, and had an English degree in my pocket from JMU, and but found the technology fascinating. Took some classes down at VCU, some graduate classes in technology, and GIS specifically. In their environmental science track, was further interested. At that point, I was trying to decide, should I become an environmental lawyer or an environmental science person, and got some great advice to not become a lawyer, and then got some real world kind of exposure to environmental science jobs through a couple good friends that took that field, and kind of was like, I want something sciencey-ish, but not quite environmental science. And so I came full circle to looking at what my dad does, which is technology, and thought this could be pretty interesting. So I took some classes, like I said, at VCU, found them fascinating, and a mentor suggested I try to get a job in QA to kind of break into the technology field without a CS degree, which I did. And that led to QA automation using languages like Ruby. And that led to DevOps, which led to what I'm doing now, which is sort of platform engineering. But along the way, the community, the Richmond community, has been my ladder and my foundation. And from obviously my father and my friend group from growing up, but more importantly, just the community at large. People in technology have been super helpful, always willing to meet for coffee, always willing to share their experience, and that has guided me. That's been kind of my lantern, if you will, as I've stumbled my way across into the tech field. And so for that reason, perhaps I love the tech community. So I've been involved with founding the QA user group here when I was doing QA stuff. And then the AWS user group, which now is kind of an all-encompassing cloud user group where we talk about Azure, AWS, GCP, Oracle, IBM, whatever, and Kubernetes.
Nice. You just covered a lot of years, I would imagine.
Actually, so that's a funny thing with technology. I mean, like, you can have 7 years of experience and walk around and people treat you like a guru, which is hilarious, but that's kind of speaks to the the speed of change, and how quickly paradigms shift and facts change, and all of a sudden,
you can have 7 years of experience and also be a dinosaur. If you got to pick the right 100%. Things. Yeah.
100%.
All right. So you went from being an English Spanish major to now, leading like some software platform delivery technologies at, one of the larger companies that are in the Richmond area. How long did it take you from getting that first job when you're like, hey, I'm a Spanish English major studying a little bit about GIS at like, I don't know, classes online to try to get more into tech. What year was that? To get to where you're at right now? How long was that?
2012.
Okay, so that's your 7-8 years or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
so that was 12, married in 13, had a kid in 14, and right around I'd say 14 was probably when I got on the track.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
quick, actually, if you
yeah,
think
I
about
mean,
it.
yeah, like I
Like,
said,
when would you have finished
I
law
had the
school?
right. I know, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
crazy.
that's dodge that bullet.
Mm,
But
yeah. So,
you have a law degree, do you? Because that might be
no,
offensive if you do.
no, I don't have a lot of. I got this is kind of funny. It's funny that this is recorded. So I got my master's in business administration, and I did it in like the least cost effect or the most cost effective, least effort possible. I pinned two
I like it.
universities against each other, and I said like, hey, whoever can, like, I was at Dell EMC at the time, and we'd get a $50,000 stipend to go to grad school. And I was like, whoever can do it in the least amount of classes for less than 50 grand, I'm yours. And I pinned UMass against this school called Suffolk. And I put them on an email. I felt like I was like a used car, like after a used car or whatever. And I put them both on the same email. And I
That's
ended up getting
hilarious.
it done in 11 courses, one of which was actually 2 weekend courses, and one was a study abroad. So reality, I did it in like 8 courses in like a
Dude,
year and a
that's
half. Yeah, and didn't pay
heck
for
yeah.
anything. So
Yeah, well,
yeah,
that's a good lesson right there.
yeah, I
Lesson
think
in
so.
life.
I think yours is a good lesson too, though. Like, um, a lot of it was self-taught, which, hey, when I was going to classes at night, I was doing it with like 2 of my buddies. All the 3 of us did the same thing. We're like, Dell bought EMC. EMC has this like legacy program. Dell's going to do away with it. Let's get it done as fast as possible. And we did. But there had been people that, were helping you out to make sure you're like staying motivated as you made this transition from, having, English, Spanish major to getting into tech. Curious who those people are.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. So I'll say 2 things. One is that my dad has been,
Yeah.
he is a excellent career coach. And so every step of the way, every offer letter, every interview opportunity, I had his voice in my ear, which now I like, have, I barely even need to call him because I already know what he's going to say. So I kind of know his thought process,
Yeah.
which is, I guess he's done a good job in that way. But so I had him and I had a couple other people, but yeah, at the end of the day, you're kind of alone in your career. It's like you're forging your own way. You have a couple cheerleaders maybe, but the cheerleaders in your life, at least for me, I don't really have anyone. I don't know. Yeah, I don't feel like I had anyone like steadily helping me.
Yeah.
I feel like I had some people who I went out of my way to follow and ask questions, and they helped me. But yeah, I think like it's one of those things where I think it's just an important distinction to make, especially for people who are getting into the field. Is like no one's going to help you, no one's going to go out of their way, and you have to kind of come at that with like a positive, almost in a positive way. Like no one's going to be saying, "Hey, come here, come into this door." Like you're gonna have to knock on all the doors yourself, and so. And then eventually someone's gonna, see you and open the door when you're knocking on it, and that's how it happens. But so no one, I feel like, I don't know, I guess people helped me, people opened doors for me, but I don't feel like people, we're like holding my hand. If that's so.
It
So to
totally
your
makes sense.
question,
Yeah.
yeah. So maybe your question was kind of like who influenced me, who kind of gave me my hand up
Yeah.
who opened those doors. Yeah, I mean, Bruce Slough is just like I think he's retired now. He was just a technology manager. He got me that first in-person interview at the QA job. I had headhunters, UDIG, and shout out to Kemi Little with Fahrenheit IT. She's still a good friend of mine, and we chat regularly.
Nice.
When she's trying to hire a position or whatever, or needs some kind of industry guidance or whatever. It's because she's a tech recruiter. So UDIG found me my next job. Fahrenheit IT found me my job after that. Both those were direct hire. And then a recruiter reached out for Capital One. And then, yeah, I think along the way, I had one manager in particular, Chris Monger he's at CarMax now. And he kind of brought me over to CarMax.
Nice, good deal.
But he believed in me, and he like loved me and made me feel like I was smart and intelligent and like the best. And I mean, that went a long way, because I was doing QA. I was like, I kind of knew what I was doing, but not really.
Man, I hear you.
And he was like, you're awesome. And I was like, really? And so, I mean, that gave me like a lot of like thunder. And I was like, all right, I can be awesome. And like, I can start like forging a path, without needing to ask for permission. So I think everyone kind of maybe needs someone that gives them that confidence.
Yeah.
Of course, my dad was always like, you're awesome. You're awesome. So,
that's one thing, but someone who's not related to you telling you you're awesome is different.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that brings up like the formal education thing versus what you actually want to like learn, and then also not just what but like, there's different kinds of intelligence, right? He probably thought you're awesome because of the other ways that you are intelligent and good at things, not because of your ability to like, have a seat and be helping in a QA kind of environment. So curious, like I see a trend, right? You're kind of entrepreneurial within like tech, and you're kind of taking the bull by the horns a little bit with these things like the RVA Tech Talk. And I didn't even know about the QA group that you started in Richmond, but now the AWS user group, that's now a multi-cloud user group. Like, where did that inspiration come from?
I just love those user groups, man. And I went to, there used to be a DevOps one that's kind of died down. And I don't think they're active anymore in Richmond.
Yeah.
But I went to every single one of those, and I loved it. I got to sit in front of some really good tech professionals and listen to them. And for me, a lot of my, for some reason, listening to people talk about technology, I can like, my learning curve is like goes into like, it's gasoline on my learning curve.
Nice.
On the fire of my learning curve, so to speak, to hear people talk about technology, because I can ask questions in the middle of how they're talking. And when someone's just like talking about technology, you get this, like, you can hear how they're talking about it, when they're pausing, when they're reiterating, when they are, focusing on a certain area, and you get this like type of context that you can't get reading blogs really. And you can't get like reading docs on some website.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can also kind of detect like, okay, so they're a Microsoft employee, so they're probably gonna answer questions about Microsoft. That's interesting that in this area they also mentioned their competitor, which maybe means that like, this is more of a wide open space, and maybe their competitor's better, which is interesting. So why is their competitor better in this area and not this area? So like, hearing people talk about it to me is like, that has been critical for me. And so, there was a gap. I mean, this DevOps group kind of died out, and I was like, man, I would have like, for example, with QA, I would have loved if there was a QA group when I was getting into the field. And so I was like, let me start a QA group in case there's more people getting into the field. And sure enough, everyone that showed up to the QA meetups was like trying to get into QA. That was like kind of the thing. And so even with the DevOps group or the cloud group that we do, I mean, probably half the people are like very new to the cloud and have probably no idea what they're talking about. And they maybe and this is, I mean, I'm saying this like with no judgment. This is exactly totally, where I was 5 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, they may be able to be like, they may have someone, the speaker may present some crazy, like long-winded, like, hey, if you deploy this AKS cluster with, multi-region resiliency, blah, 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 blah. And they may get one good question out of that, which is like, you said cluster. What does that mean? And that's like gold for them, and they can get that answer, and the speaker can be like, oh, cluster, it's when you put a bunch of servers together, and they're like, okay, got it. And they may leave with that one little bit of like extra knowledge, but that's like gold.
Yeah, totally.
So
Good deal.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does.
Are huge for me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we all learn in different ways, right? And that's like a huge part of like trying to figure that out personally as you go through your career. Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
I'll add to with the user groups. I mean, like community is so important to me, and like, you know, I feel so happy when there's like, we have a user group in Richmond and a bunch of people show up and we're all just like there together, and we're not connected by our employer that's paying us. We're there
Sure.
because yes, we are all probably getting paid to do the job, but we're all kind of together in this like no pretense space where we can share ideas and talk to each other. And to me, that just like makes me feel like at home in this field. Because like, you know, at the end of the day, what are we doing? We're like building technology, like for what? Like for the corporations. And so why do they need technology? To make more money. And why do they need to make more money? Like, I don't know, to buy more stuff. Like, it's a weird, technology is a very strange, like I pause sometimes and I'm like, what are we building and why? And I think the answer is impossible to really
Oh, we don't know yet,
surmise.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, the singularity, I guess. And so, you know, I think it's good to, for me, it gives me existential peace to pause and break bread with my other technologists to be like, hey, like you're building this stuff
I
too.
feel
Like,
you.
great, let's
Yeah.
hang out.
Yeah, that's honestly, that's what gives me
So,
energy within tech also, is like the people that you're working with and like just shooting the shit, honestly, and just like making a connection. Cause like we just never know
yeah.
where this is gonna go, right? Like we rewind the clock to me, like I graduated college in 2012 and I was like a finance major, you know, and here I am, whatever. I've been in tech not terribly long, like six years or something like that. But like, you know, I sit down with like a buddy and then, you know, he brings a friend or whatever, and that person's in tech. Like I can sit down and shoot the shit with them for like 3 hours over some drinks and just talk about like whatever they're doing. And like, you know, we don't know where the world's going to go. And that's what makes like technology so exciting. It's like, man, like, I'm so glad you made it like an AWS user group to a multi-cloud one. Cause it's like, man, like you're going to bet against Google or you're going to bet against Microsoft and like whatever, and Google when they want to win like artificial intelligence. You're going to tell me like they couldn't win that and you just want to go all in on AWS. Not saying like you have to, like there's definitely benefits to go in single cloud. It's like less complicated and, you know, you have to progress in certain ways before you can probably experience multi-cloud or try to get the people there. But I think you needed to be talking about all of it. So anyway, that was kind of my rant on that. But it's certainly fun and it makes the job less of like a 9 to 5 if you're able to just like make connections with people. So I'm glad you set up those user groups. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yes. So like, do you have like advice for folks that are trying to, you know, make a jump from like a non-technical career to being, you know, you go on your LinkedIn, you're a CI/CD ninja, which is like one of the coolest technologies right now. And you're a ninja in that, right? And it only took you 7 years. So like, how do people fast track that?
Yeah, I mean, CI/CD ninja, you know, that's that's I wouldn't say I'm a black belt by any means. Maybe I'm probably like a purple belt.
Yeah, well, you're a martial
the
arts guy
jiu-jitsu
too, aren't you?
Yeah, you want to be.
Okay.
But I by the way, I see the Muhammad Ali little montage in the background.
I hit a bag this morning when I was at the gym. I'm not
Really,
good,
dude.
but I like it. It's like relieving for me, you know.
I do it every day, literally every day. Shadow box, double-ended bag, heavy bag, and you know, maybe some you know, jump squats. But that's the magic recipe.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you follow Fight Tips? Fight Tips is great.
I don't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, if you wanna just learn some basics, go to I think it's just called Fight Tips on YouTube. Okay. And it's just this random guy named Shane. And he has these just great helpful videos on like basics, like 5 mistakes every beginner makes hitting a bag, or you know, I mean that honestly, look up that one. That's going to be the one for you if you're hitting the bag, and he'll just teach you basic form, like you know, like try to, like after you throw a punch, like do a little dip, or you know, like when you throw a hook, make sure you're it's like flat. Right. And he just goes into a bunch of different ones. But anyway, we digress. see,
Advice for
how,
people. Like for
yeah,
like to
yeah,
go like as you think about it, I'll give like part of my advice, right? I would say like
yeah,
part of it is being well balanced within your life. And like for me, like having an outlet with, even if it's just an hour of like not thinking specifically about technology or like whatever you're trying to do from like a work standpoint, like me like hitting a bag every morning or like doing some exercise, that totally helps. The other thing is making sure you're friends with people that are within technology so that you're surrounding yourself more. And
mhm,
like, you know, when you have like little meetups or whatever, that they're kind of giving you like the inside scoop on what's happening within their organization or what they're seeing from their customers, so that you kind of know where to spend your energy, right? Because technology is
right,
vast, and that's like an
right,
understatement, and it's changing so quickly. And when we, you know, first started talking, hey, you can be 7 years in, 6 years in, and be looked at as an expert in a certain field, or you could be a dinosaur. And it's hard to figure out, you know, how to
right.
navigate that so that you're valuable. So those are two things for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think so if the person's already decided to get into cloud, um, that's one thing, but I would definitely encourage everyone to pause before they're thinking about getting into tech and
Mm-hmm.
realize that you better be the kind of person who likes new paradigms and learning new stuff, because otherwise you may in a burst and frenzy of energy learn everything. And then if you're the kind of person who likes to just kind of like learn an art and then just kind of go deeper in that one little area, it's not going to work, because things are going to change quickly. And obviously that's not to say that you do go deep in certain areas in technology, but if you don't have the mindset of being a constant learner, it's going to be hard. You're going to be paddling upstream, and it's just going to always be a challenge, and you're probably going to end up being kind of pissed off and jaded. Like I see a lot of other engineers that they just kind of seem frustrated that everything's changing.
Yeah, like they want to
And I
stop it,
see that a
right?
lot.
It's like
Yeah,
that, dude. That's like
they're
catching
just kind of like,
water. It's not happening, man.
yeah, and they're just like, yeah, that's kind of like their
Well, I got to
general
go
reaction,
learn
like,
this because the company wants to go that way. Like, nah,
yeah,
man, you should
and
have been learning
everything's
that before the
confusing.
company was going that way, because other people are.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So that should be a quick test to do, like before, like a litmus test before you really dive into technology. But to get started, I think picking an area, so two things. I think you need to be in one hand building breadth and like understanding how networking relates to security, relates to storage, relates to compute, relates to machine learning, relates to mobile and web design, and how all these things interweave. You need to start building a mental map of how those things are all connected, so that you can start triangulating. When you hear certain bits of information, you can say, okay, this affects that and that affects that, and so this might be kind of, these might all be related, so you can ask the better, like a good question. And so starting to build out, I'm still like, my mental model is like, I'm constantly like, I tried to actually whiteboard this out the other day to make a visual, and it totally failed. But what I try to do is like, I'll learn a little bit about networking, and then I'll learn a little bit about security, and I be based on the things that I kind of run into, and I'll kind of be going in a spiral, kind of like getting broader and broader out. And so I start to get this bigger and bigger picture of how everything kind of fits together. But it started with some really basic, like learning about like the kernel. And then from the kernel, I'd be like, okay, well, I have no idea what, RAM is. So let me
Yeah,
go look
I
up
remember
RAM.
those
Okay.
days. Yep.
Yeah. And so obviously it's a tricky, you don't want to start like learning about circuitry and stuff, but like, I feel like that's,
Oh man,
you
it's
have to be willing
insane.
to kind of go in like those spirals of learning about all different types of things. So that's kind of on one hand. And then obviously, and when you're doing that, you got to realize this is a long game, right? So like these things are going to change, and you kind of just got to embrace that like long pursuit of knowledge. And then in the world of engineering, but then on the other hand, I think you have to take some time to pick an area and dive deep. For me, like I realized that test automation was this big gap, and so I was like, I'm gonna learn enough about test automation to call myself, not maybe not an expert, but like
And you're ninja. I'm not sure which black belt or which belt, but a ninja of types.
Yeah, I want to be like a white belt, but I want to be like a blue belt in this area.
Sure.
Maybe 2 years of solid experience and good theoretical knowledge, and maybe some like anecdotes to go with it, and like some know-how on the tools out there to get the job done. And so I dove deep on that while kind of in the background learning about everything and kind of exposing myself to all these different tools and technologies. And so, yeah, I think on one hand you want depth, and on one hand you want breadth. And I think you need to pursue both simultaneously. That's kind of the advice I would give. And then I think also, like, don't burn yourself out. Like you said, like,
exactly.
Realize you're in this for the long haul. And it's, I mean, the whole marathon thing is like kind of it's kind of trite, but it's so true. It's like,
I agree.
You need to figure out what your operating temperature is, and then just stick to that. And for me, honestly, I've realized that I don't have a good operating temperature, and I like have these bursts of energy, and then like learn, like I'll go way deep on something and work late hours for like a month and a half, 2 months, and then I'll burn out. And that's just like, it's like my natural energy flows. So like I've got a weird, I've almost realized that I have a certain pattern. So when I'm like, I have a lot of energy right now, I like devote it to, learning more, deepening my skills. And then when I burn out, I go back to my regular kind of like 9 to 5. So maybe I'm a bad example in that way.
No, I think that's fine. So like what's going on in my brain right now? Well, I'm curious where your bursts come from. Like what fuels that? Because there's got to be a catalyst that causes you like all of a sudden like, hey, I'm going to nail this tech. Because like in my mind, it's all been, let's see if I think about it. Gosh, 1, 2, 3. I've done like 6 different roles over the last 6 years. And a lot of times I become very good at what I'm doing. And then I like do something else. And like when I do something else that like I find myself like, I'm a morning person, right? Like I'll wake up at freaking 5 and like be like watching a YouTube video about something, because like for me, it's like I need to learn, and then I need to just get uncomfortable and have these conversations. And then like the uncomfortable parts, I kind of fake it till I make it, honestly. And then I go back and I'm like, what I said like totally right? Or could I have said that better? But it's me, like when I get my burst of energy, it's because I'm doing something new. It's not like, okay, it's July, like the sun's out later, like my burst of energy is happening and I'm banging away till 3 a.m. I'm curious, like what causes your bursts of energy to learn new stuff?
I don't know. I don't have a great answer for that. And I've never really, I think it's a mix of things. Like, I've got kids. And so sometimes like, I don't know, maybe things will kind of calm down in that way. Like, I don't know, the kids will hit a stride of some kind, or I've hit a stride with like, so I've like, things are calm. And so maybe like I use that time and I fill that excess space with that pursuit. But I don't know. Seamus, I don't know. I can't think of what
it's a deep question, I guess.
I know maybe there's like some sort of like, pathology there, but it's below my subconscious, so I can't access it right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. You brought up like career coach pretty early. And like there's a time, like when I was doing my MBA, one of the best things I got out of that, you got like a career coach, and they would have you like reflect on these things and be like, why did that happen? But why? And I'm like, God damn. I'm like, why are you asking me all these things? And now like I think back at that time, and honestly, it was like super helpful, It actually was one of the reasons I ended up switching jobs. Which I'm not sure if that worked in the favor of Dell EMC because they paid for my education, and because of my education I ended up switching. But I am grateful for that. And now I'm learning like
shout out to Dell EMC.
Yeah, thanks Dell EMC. Thanks Michael Dell. He did fine. He did totally fine. If you can buy a company for $67 billion, I'm not worried about him footing the bill on my MBA,
Yeah, he'll be all right.
Who knows? Things might come around at some point, and I'm helping him out again, selling some stuff. So I was looking at your LinkedIn page. You got the robotic arm before Ford. What's the reason for that?
So I get a lot of spam from like, a lot of recruiters from all around the world, which will happen to you if you put the word DevOps in your job title.
Yes.
And so I, now whenever someone sends me some sort of meeting request, if it has the little arm in the beginning, it means it's from an automated message generator. And so I know to just immediately block it and ignore it.
So let's stick on that for a little bit. On your side, like things have been crazy because of COVID, right? Like everyone's just chilling behind a laptop and like things have become like so not personal. Like from your side, like what's the change that has happened to you by people like, reaching out? Like what's the volume of emails that have changed since COVID for you? In generally, you can just talk about it from the heart. I don't need a number. I'm just kind of curious.
I mean, I don't know. I don't get that many requests. I feel like maybe there are maybe a little bit more because there's so many virtual friendly roles now. But I mean, and I'll say too, if someone sends me a personalized message, even if it's like, and honestly, even if they send me an automated message, usually I'll at least say, hey, no thanks. I just feel bad because I feel people in sales, it's just like, I'm sure it feels kind of disheartening sometimes to reach out to 500 people and no one responds. So I at least respond and say, hey, looks like a cool role, not interested, have good luck. Yeah, that's like usually what I'll say. But yeah, I mean, and if anyone responds like actually curious and actually with a real life person with a message, I will always respond and say, how can I help? Yeah. But that said, I don't think there's been an uptick. Okay. And I was in Costa Rica for 5 months this winter, and I had most of that stuff just like turned off.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
So you're at Cap One at that point, right?
I was. Yep. Yeah. Yep. And I'm not sure if anyone from Cap One is going to be listening to this, but
they probably will be. But we can always edit it.
Well, I mean, no, don't worry about it. I mean, when they said work remote, I said from anywhere, and they said, yeah, anywhere. And I think there was a miscommunication because I was like, okay, I'm buying tickets to Costa Rica because there's great Wi-Fi. And when I got there, I was there for about 4 months, and I finally told my team, it's like, hey, by the way, I've been in Costa Rica for 4 months. And they were like, what? And my teammates were like, dude, that's awesome. And then, my senior manager or my director who's no longer at Capital One was like, sorry, what? Where are you? And then she reached out to HR, and HR found out that I wasn't supposed to be out of the country.
Oh, I thought I was going to hear a security thing.
No, it's a tax thing.
Oh.
Yeah. So the moment they found out, I stopped working and came home immediately, and it was all reconciled. But yeah, had a great experience in Costa Rica, and would definitely do it again if if everything worked out from a legal perspective.
Interesting. Yeah, I moved to Virginia Beach. I thought that was pretty wild, but that's not Costa Rica, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I thought like security would come up, and say like you're not supposed to be like whatever going in from the VPN from Costa Rica or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I checked with I mean, it worked out.
Yeah. No kidding, man. No kidding.
I'll just say that. And honestly, I mean, yeah, it's I'm looking forward to a future where there's more flexibility in terms of where you work in that regard from corporations, like large corporations that are, dealing with tax code, because it gets complicated when you're in different countries.
Yeah. But, let's talk about like Richmond real quick. You love Richmond, it seems like, and you've given a lot back to the community. Like what's the reason?
Well, I'm from Richmond, and the city has really grown into itself in the past 15 years. So I've watched it as an adult. And Richmond, I'm an outdoors person, hiked the entire Appalachian Trail when I was in college, and, cool. Was a Boy Scout and all that stuff. And so I just love the outdoors. And so Richmond's got, every week, multiple times a week, I do like a, 7-mile trail run on both sides of the river, completely in the woods. And I mean, it's beautiful,
Yeah, that sounds
rolling
sweet.
hills
Yeah, that
along the
sounds
river.
awesome.
And there's like, great rafting. And I'm going to be training to be a raft guide, either later this summer or next summer. And great mountain biking. And I mean, and then on top of all that stuff, great, like kind of outdoors. And this is all in the city, by the way, not like leave the city, because you can get epic mountain biking and epic everything if you go just outside the city. But this is all in the city that I've been talking about, these great trails and stuff, great mountain biking. And then on top of that, you can get anywhere you want in like 15, 20 minutes, like anywhere. For me to get to my house, which is like in some neighborhood, to get downtown, it's like 5 minutes. And so that's just like, I think it's 9 minutes to get to like the downtown area. And it's just a cool city too. It's like historical. We've got a great like sense of identity. We've got a lot of like, open wounds from the past in terms of like, racial injustice. And so I feel like I'm proud of Richmond in that we've come from a pretty dirty, dark past, being the capital of the Confederacy.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all kind of like, I like to think we're all discovering who we're going to be together in real time. And like, with the whole drama with the statues, I was just like, obviously there was a lot of like unsavory things that happened on that, during that time. But I feel like at Richmond, we are collectively asking really hard questions and grappling with them together. And I'm like proud to be like in a city that's like in a full on wrestling match with itself, about like how we're going to move forward as a society.
That was a deep answer. I appreciate that. It seems like, yeah, that was good. Yeah, we used to go to the Quirk Hotel.
Yeah, I'm one block away from the Quirk Hotel right now.
Bang. Yeah, in Sabai, there's like a Thai food place that I used to go to. I don't know. It was right near the Children's Science Museum, I think.
Yeah.
Good deal. So I gotta get to this from one podcaster to the other. What makes a good interview?
Oh,
yeah.
I think vibing is a good one. Like just having an open conversation.
Yeah.
And at least for me, I mean, like, so I consume a lot of podcasts. There's been 3 podcasters, really 4, that have really inspired me.
Okay.
One has been, well, I guess she's not a interviewer, but I'm blanking on her name. Fresh Air, Terry Gross is an awesome interviewer. And then the Joe Rogan podcast, he's kind of a meathead, but he's a pretty good interviewer. And I think he's an interesting example of kind of like having a fun conversation and kind of going on rants and kind of like letting the conversation guide itself. And then and so I've learned a little bit kind of like listening to his show. Tim Ferriss is an interesting interviewer. He has a totally different style, and he has a lot of preparation, has a lot of notes, is very structured. And he's had a lot of podcasts about podcasting where he's like revealed like, his tips and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's been helpful. And then lastly, the Armchair Expert podcast is really interesting. I've been listening to that lately. His style is like very, it's also a very loose conversation, but he does a lot of research and asks a lot of like probing questions that he's prepared in advance.
Nice.
So yeah, those are all been kind of influences, but yeah, I feel like a good amount of research on the person, and then being able to like ask good investigative questions, like, like, okay, I saw this in your past and this in your past and that in your past, like, how does that all connect? Like things like that where, yeah. So I feel like that is, a blend of preparedness with just kind of, letting the conversation evolve, to me, is like the magic.
Like bullet. A conversation over a cup of coffee. One great man once said.
Yeah, exactly.
So Ford, it's been great chatting with you. Usually you're on my side of these kind of conversations. to our audience out there, it's a lot of folks that are, they're in the technology community in DC, Maryland, Virginia. Curious, if there's anything in particular you want to share or voice to folks before we wrap things up here.
No. Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah. That's right.
And if you're ever down in Richmond, hit us up. Find us on meetup.com. We have the user group. And if anybody from DC ever wants to kind of collaborate in terms of the user group stuff, I'm all ears. No asks.
All right, good deal, man. All right, Ford, it was great chatting with you, man. For the
You
folks
too,
out
Seamus.
there, we're just trying to bring value to people, talk about their careers. If Ford, anyone that wants to hop on, or if people have been on Ford's podcast and they want to hop on mine, reach out. And then if the listeners have any suggestions, reach out to me. So that's the deal, man. Good chatting with you.
Heck yeah. All right, you too, man.
All right, later. Bye.
Adios.